So I'm going to bring back in Cameron, and it looks like he's gonna beat me back to a pulp again. No, I'm just kidding.
No, no.
I really enjoy talking to you. I don't mean that in any way
Thank you.
to be disrespectful at all, because and even the other commenters I've noticed, they were like, "Yeah, he was really smart. I don't know, if I should call in or something." But I have a lot to learn from you. So, was there anything in that last conversation that like piqued your interest that you want to hop and piggyback on, or was there something else that you thought through when you
Yeah.
came back?
This is not going to be like a debate thing. This is like
Okay, sure.
genuine questions I have
Yeah, of
personally
course.
because I think I've been a fan of Nathan for quite a while. So
Really?
that was a bit of a
Do you know him
surprise
personally,
yesterday
or
to
did
go.
you just see him? Do you just see him online?
I have messaged him on Instagram a few times and we've
Okay,
had
cool.
some small conversations, but I don't think he knows this person here is that person there. But
Got you. Yeah.
um, there were I think I'm in a similar position with Nathan because I was quite atheistic in my
Hmm.
philosophy before, and I'm trying to come to faith. It was around Christmas time. I was reading the Bible and started praying. And then
Hmm.
I have a friend who's Catholic, and she introduced me to her church and all of those things, which is very nice. And I've started going to mass. But my priest is leaving soon, and I've started to make
Mm.
him a rosary just as
Wow,
a
that's
thank
amazing.
you because he's a really nice guy. But my issues, I think, generally are with belief. So
Hmm.
I'm trying to believe in God. I'm not sure whether I do or not.
Hmm.
I'd pray, I do whatever. I go to mass. But one question would be, how do I know if I believe in God? And the second question would be like, do I actually believe anything? Because I'm getting to a point where I don't really hold beliefs at this point. I mean, maybe I see sort of
Yeah.
appeals of things as arguments, but I don't feel in my heart attached to anything, and that applies. Well, I want to join RCIA when I go to university. I want to convert. I want to get confirmed. But do I really believe, and how do I know that, and how do I sort of navigate that? Like, those are sort of issues I would have.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, well, thanks for bringing that up, because I know, I mean, today it's such a hostile atmosphere in public, and then even online. Like, you just meet people who are just like so belligerent when you raise any issues of faith whatsoever. And so props to you, and then props to Nathan as well for bringing this up. So, with respect to belief, it's like if it's just a philosophical, I'll talk about this from like a philosophical perspective, and then from like a sort of counsel perspective. So, philosophically speaking, we've talked about this in a comment before with respect to like if you believe, does that mean that you have to like let's say affirm the reality, the ontological reality of propositions or something like that, and you're not really sure what that means about with respect to what it means to hold a belief. I think that's like all residual stuff, and um there. So I just take belief to be, I hold it to be the case that, and that's just like the proposition. Whatever you want to say about the ontological status of propositions, who cares whether they're nominal or real? But I take it to, if I hold a propositional belief, I believe that the sun exists. Let's say the sun rises or something like that. Well, I hold it to be the case that the sun rises. That's it. I hold it to be the case. And if that matches reality, it corresponds to reality. I hold a correspondence theory of truth. If it corresponds to reality, that means the belief I hold is true. So I hold a true belief. And of course, you need justification to get knowledge. Um, so yeah, that's the analysis. But other people will, or even I do this. Like, you can incorporate elements of confidence as well, or some people will use the word certainty, but I think that's a little bit misleading, because I take
Credence.
certainty, yeah, certain levels of credence, yeah, and then you're thinking like a Bayesian with respect to like,
Yeah.
what's your credence level? Is it like above 50? Is it 50.001? Then you believe, and if it's below that, you don't. I think that's helpful. Um, and if you're of that more mathematical mind, then go for it. I haven't really thought about that since grad school, though. I mean, some people, when it comes to me, for me practically, it's just like I mean, I'll use it when I use it, but I just don't operate like that, I suppose. Um, I just yeah. Uh, so yeah, I was just watching a Jordan Peterson um video today where he was like surrounded by all those atheists. I saw a clip of it, and he was taking
Danny was there,
issue.
wasn't he?
Yeah, he was there. Yeah, and had the viral moment of the whole thing. And yeah, it was somebody else he was talking to. For some reason, Jordan, as a psychologist, was taking issue with the what it means to believe something, he was understanding it, as many people do, and understandably as a psychologist, he was taking it believe to mean that not just that you hold it to be true, but that you would die for it. It's like, but that's like really meaning infused, and I understand why he would. And so like, so some people see belief as that way. It's just like just going to be a religious belief. But uh, out of those options, like what of those options looks like something that you kind of gravitate towards the most?
So I recognise there is a distinction between a sort of philosophical conception of belief and a non-philosophical one. So I got bored in college one day, so I was trying to figure out what belief is, and I was really
Mhm.
trying to go through what belief was, to try and figure out whether I believe something. But there was, hang on, I'll get it a second. I'll keep on talking, but I'll just turn
Sure,
my
sure,
camera off quickly so I can
sure.
grab it. My priest, he gave me a little booklet, which was well, not it was an actual book concerned with what belief is, and there was
Hmm.
something in might be explained, but found it. Here it is. I found it really helpful in a sense.
Mhm.
So I was fixated to this book. By the way, I don't know if can you that might be reversed,
Hmm.
but it's A Path to
Okay.
a New Life,
Tomislav
and
Ivanchik. I'm not even familiar with the author. That's interesting though.
neither.
There's some great work being done
But
by Slavic authors in philosophy and
mm,
theology that like people in the West just mostly don't know. And you'll happen upon
yeah,
them every once in a while and you'll be like, this is really good. Why don't we know about this? So yeah.
yeah. Um, and it's sort of spoken there about belief is of the heart. There's this. I'm sort of focusing a lot on, philosophically maybe
Mm-hmm.
beliefs are propositional attitudes, but I don't believe in propositions. So what? How
Mm-hmm.
does that work? But there's the idea that the belief is of the heart, and it's something you deep down take to be true, or something along those lines. You deep down have some sort of relation to,
Mm.
or have a
Oh,
lost connection.
your camera just turned off for a little bit.
Am I still here though? Can you?
Yeah, you are still here.
Okay. Well,
No,
there we
there
go.
you are.
Um, it's something you sort of have a deep connection to deep down, but I still feel like there's. So you give the example of the sun rising. Okay, you
Yeah.
can tell me the sun is rising. The sun does rise. I can conceive of that. I can think of that. But I don't. It's not like deep down. I don't really care about it in some
Right.
sense. I don't have any attachment either way. Maybe the sun does rise. Maybe I can entertain that. I don't feel any attachment to that. And that's the same with all things with me at the minute. So belief in God, I don't feel any attachment either way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, utilitarianism, ideas on free will, I
Yeah.
don't have any attachment to any of those. And that's really hard in
What about things that you
thinking about
do
God.
believe? What does it feel phenomenologically speaking to have an attachment to say, I mean, anything of, I think the attachment language only really works when you're talking about something of value, not factual. Um, so let's take it like I believe that I don't know, there's a lot of money in my 401k or something like that. I don't know. I don't even, something like that you're attached to. What phenomenologically, what does it feel like to believe that? Where there's something at stake.
Yeah. Um, well, that's the problem. I almost think it's universal. So I don't have
Hmm.
an attachment to anything, which is
Okay.
is a bit weird to say, but maybe I just don't believe anything at all. And that would obviously, if I don't believe anything, it'd make it hard to believe. So say I
I
believe in
doubt
God, and then
I doubt
go
that.
for that. And
And I think you do have beliefs of value. I'm just asking you to think of an example, but I think that you have just non-value beliefs. Obviously, you believe that you live in a certain place, you believe that you were born in a certain place, you believe what your name is, these are all beliefs that you hold and they're of no consequence really, but so I don't think it's true that you hold no beliefs, but maybe, and I don't even think it's true that you hold no beliefs of value. I just don't think that you can think of anything off the top of your head, and that's fine. But in any case, sorry to interrupt, but go ahead.
then you sort of get the wider problem. Let's say I do have beliefs, and maybe I'm going wrong somewhere. How do I
Hmm.
determine what I believe? So a lot of the time, throughout when I was younger, I've been going through arguments for God. One of the earliest books I read was Ed Fazer's Five Proofs. Do you know
Mm-hmm.
that book?
I familiar with it. I've not read it though, but I've grown to have more respect for Ed Fraser. Yeah.
That was one of the ones I read, and I've sort of been into that debate on God's existence for quite a while. Um, so that never really worked for me. So I've tried to shift more to a sort of a spiritual way of trying to find God. And I think
Yeah.
there was something that do you know Emerson Green?
I don't.
Familiar with? He's a YouTuber. He sort of went from atheism to agnosticism, as far as I'm aware. And
Mhm.
his view was that I can look at the world in a certain way that I can lean towards a view more. So perhaps he can focus more on the suffering of the world and be more like an atheist, or he can look towards the design of the world and be more like a theist.
Yeah.
And
That
that's
makes
something I
sense.
held, sort of like an indirect doxastic voluntarism. I can sort of shift my beliefs a bit by what I focus on,
Yeah.
maybe by praying a lot. But I
That's
just
right.
feel like that
Yeah.
maybe that hasn't worked at all deep down. There's just nothing there. Perhaps I've felt no change from atheism to agnosticism to whatever I am now. I felt no change at all.
Yeah.
And maybe
Yeah.
even when I was younger, when I would call myself a theist, I felt no change from being a theist to being an atheist.
So were you
So
raised theist, and then what would you consider yourself now?
I don't know. That's the problem. I
Yeah.
have no clue at all what my view is, and I don't know how I would even go about figuring out what
Yeah.
my view is, how I could change
And
my view, how I could
that's
become a
totally
theist.
fine, by the way. Like, whatever, man. Like, if you were to take a snapshot of my life and find me at a place where I didn't know something, and that's what matters, that would be in real trouble. So like, this is all a progression for everybody. Like, you're learning. That's what matters, and just being open to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's fine if
Okay.
you're at a point where just like, I just don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you
Well,
say you might go like the more spiritual route or something like that. Like, for me personally, I know people have gone this way, and and I don't know if it's just the way I'm constructed or something. I'm not. I mean, I do. I think I'm a well-rounded individual, and that I have a vibrant emotional life, and sympathy and so on. I can cry during movies that are really touchy and sensitive, and during certain spots. But I just reflecting upon it, and maybe I'm revisionist about some things, but reflecting upon it, I don't really recall it being the emotional or spiritual path, or even the sense of belonging path for me. It was more the intellectual path. And I think the initial trouble for me was like, at least it was seen that it was initially okay, intellectually speaking. First of all, to have doubts, and then second of all, to realize, okay, there might be some things that I don't fully understand, but there are smarter people than me who've worked it out, you know? And then to kind of finding, if at rock bottom I'm still really unsatisfied, then okay, continue to pursue it. But if I get to a point where I'm like, I've worked on this problem and I at least at the point don't feel the tension, or that I once felt, I maybe don't have it intellectually resolved or something. So that was for me, like, it was more of an intellectual route. At getting past that point of like, this is I need to find the initial point, like this initially okay to like believe in God. I was raised religious, but then I went through like an atheistic period throughout college, and that was a problem of like real doubt, and that's what got me more interested in epistemology and philosophy and so on. But yeah, but you're suggesting maybe the spiritual route, and this reminds me honestly of Pascal's wager. Did you watch the video that I did on that? And yeah, where he says that
I think
ideas.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, he gets to this point of he's passed the wager in that passage. If you want to look the passage up, given that they're fragments, they're not all uniformly numbered, so it depends on what edition you have. There's not a specific number, but it's usually marked. It's a famous wager passage. Near the end of that passage, he says, okay, I've taken the wager. He has a hypothetical objector who's like, well, I've taken the wager, and I know that I should believe in God, but I can't. So what do I do? And his recommendation is very similar to what you're saying, that you're kind of walking through the steps of like, I'm just going to go through the steps. And for a lot of people, that sounds like faking it, and it seems really inauthentic. But that's exactly what you're describing also in that indirect doxastic voluntarism. Like, that's the way we change our beliefs about anything. If I'm convinced about something, but I can't, like at a second order level, and I can't really convince my first order self about this, then I put myself in a position to change those first order beliefs. And that's what he recommends.
But I guess the issue I'm facing is that I've tried that. That's the view I had before. I
Mm.
held. I think Alex O'Connor said a similar thing is when
Mm-hmm.
when he talks about divine hiddenness. But you can try and go to church, you can try and do all these things to change your beliefs at a different level. But for me, that just has not worked so far.
Mm.
I don't think it has. Maybe it has. Maybe I do deep down believe in God or something. But if I want to become Catholic and I truly want to convert, do I honestly believe in God? And if I don't, am I being deceitful in some sense? Am
Mm,
I? Yeah, I think there's issues there. I don't really know how to navigate such an issue.
yeah. Yeah, I think this is the beauty of the Catholic faith is that although it's very universal, obviously, and then right there in the name Catholic means universal, but it's also very deeply personal. So like, you're taking this vow personally, and that's only you can do it, following your conscience. And so I can't tell you, well, you've got to reach this threshold. I mean, that's completely going to be whatever it is for you. Um, Yeah. So I mean, I'm not in your mind. I don't know if deep down you really believe in God or not, but like I can tell you, like if like you are now, if you give me like certain like this, and this, I can be like, okay. If I were in that situation, I would maybe proceed in a certain way this way, or if a similar situation this way and that way, and so on. So here are my options. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's going to be um, not to say that it's subjective, of course. So you're not hearing it this way, but anybody in the audience might be hearing this. Oh, it's all at the end of the day, it's just whatever you think. It's not that, of course. It's that you have to make the decision, and be confident about what you're doing, of course. And of course, you don't have to have it all figured out. Like I mentioned earlier, I didn't have a lot of things figured out. I'm still working through like Mariology, uh, views on Mary. I'm working out stuff on the real presence in the Eucharist, like how the bread and wine changed to the body and blood of Christ. It's like foreign to me because I was raised Southern Baptist. So like that doesn't make any sense to me at all, especially when I first joined. But I knew that like there was enough there, a critical mass. I was at a threshold point where I was like, okay, this needs to happen. And for me, it took like 10 years. For some people, it takes. I have a friend who recently became Catholic, and we've gotten a friendship over YouTube. Believe it or not, he lives in Maryland, so I went and like saw him. And for him, it took 20 years of God just like, all right, just working through these issues. And um, but yeah, so but so you say you're at a point where you've tried these things and they may not be working. So a couple thoughts about that. It's well, excuse me. First of all, how long should you wait? Who knows, man? I don't know. I don't know. If thinking about, I mean, again, this is a lifelong pursuit of the truth. So there really is no time limit on how long you should wait and to feel God's presence. Like me, having not gone the spiritual route, I rarely if ever feel God's presence, and I may never have, to be honest with you. Like it's a really rare thing in my life. I don't know, if I've ever had a religious experience at all. It would be nice, but who knows? Yeah. So anyway, I just lost my train of thought there, but um, yeah. But how long should you pursue it? It's really, I think you should, as long as you're thinking about it, just keep thinking about it. I mean, there's really no end to it. And oh, here's the other thing I said. So it reminds me of Mother Teresa. She had already grown up in a Catholic home, and she had already felt a deep sense of the presence of Christ, probably more than I have. Her path was different, of course. And most people don't know this, but I'm connected with the Mother Teresa Institute, so I know it. That most people don't know that through the last 50 years of her life, maybe 60 years of her life, she lived to be 90, 80 something. She had this really deep spiritual desolateness, this spiritual darkness that she like did not feel the presence of God. And like if you look at some of her writings, it's like, is heaven real? What am I doing? Like it's really deep and like jarring, especially because on the outside she has this like glowing presence about her. Um, so even in cases like that, I mean, you can move forward. And of course, her path is different because she started in a different place than you, but she moved forward even though she didn't feel the presence. Uh, but anyway, that's just one other thing that made me think of. But anyway, thoughts here.
Yeah, there was something interesting. So maybe in some way Christ has presented himself to me. I'm not too sure. I remember the first time I went to mass, and there were a few interesting things you could say that happened. And these could all be explained naturally, of course, but so one thing that stuck out was I was looking at the statue of Mary they have in the corner of the church,
Mm-hmm.
and my glasses weren't on, so this could have just been the trick of my eyes, but it
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
looked like the face of Mary was animated. Now,
Mm-hmm.
that isn't the crazy part because that could be explained by natural phenomena. But
Mm-hmm.
a few minutes later, the priest started talking about looking at the statue of Mary and as if Mary's face was alive. and that was a bit weird to me. Um, and then I guess another thing was on that day I was feeling a bit down about my grandfather. I don't ask too much because he
Mm-hmm.
passed away a few years ago, and then
Yeah.
the day of that mass, the priest was talking about praying for the loved ones that were deceased. So that's another interesting thing. And then
Yeah.
the third thing was about this book. I was working through ideas of belief a few weeks prior, and the first time I come to mass, the priest gives me a book that solves, in some sense, the issues that I was trying to figure out. So it's those weird, maybe they're just coincidences, but that's three coincidences.
It's true.
My first time going to mass, maybe that was in some way a sign, but even then, my heart still felt cold to it. I didn't feel moved by it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel anything about it. So even then, maybe Christ would present himself. Maybe I just don't feel anything.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. Coincidences, if you have enough of them, it makes you stop to think about whether they're coincidences or not. You're right. Have you ever gone to adoration?
Yes, yeah, I went on
Yeah. What's that like for you?
a few days ago. I don't exactly know what to do there. I've only been
Yeah.
twice.
It's really
But
so
there's a lot of
adoration.
singing in silence. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So just for those who don't know, adoration is like, Catholics, of course, believe in the real presence, the body and blood of Christ are truly present there in the wafer and the host. And so going to adoration, there's not a mass being held. There's no ceremony. It's just, it's along those lines, like holy hours like this. It's like, Jesus tells his disciples in the Garden of Gethsemane, he was upset. He's like, you couldn't even wait with me for an hour, and so the idea is there to just be present and just like pray. Who knows? Maybe not. Just sit there and receive. And that's, especially in such a fast paced world with all these digital screens and everything, that's so difficult. But I mention it because you had said, is Jesus, does he appear to me? And of course, Catholics believe that he does appear. He's truly present in the Eucharist. And so, yeah, what was that like for you when you went to adoration? I
The
know
first
it's
time I went,
weird because, yeah, it's weird because you're like, what am I doing here? It's this weird thing. It's beautiful, sure, but like, what am I looking at? What do I do? Yeah, but anyway, sorry, go ahead.
the first time I went, I was with my friend who introduced me to the church, and that was the time that the priest gave me this book. So it was on the same day as I went. The first time I
Hmm.
went to mass. But the second time, which was this or last Sunday, I think,
Mhm.
I was with a friend, and we prayed a rosary beforehand, and then I prayed a rosary by myself. And I was really hoping for some sort of Eucharistic miracle because I thought that would be interesting. Maybe that
It would solve a lot of
help.
problems, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, nothing happened, unfortunately, but
yeah,
it was really nice to be there and just pray a rosary in sort of in peace and calmness, and that was really nice. But
yeah,
beyond that, I didn't feel much. It wasn't. Yeah, I don't know.
yeah. I got a buddy who's not even Catholic, and he's very contemplative and follows the tradition of the church in this way, much better than I am. And he's a fellow philosopher as well, Brandon Rickabaugh, and really great guy. Does stuff on consciousness and the soul and everything. It's a really wonderful stuff. Like a lot smarter than I am on that stuff. But he, yeah, his advice, man. If you were to ask him, is things like just sit in the mud, man. Like just sit in the weeds and just be there. Like it's so hard to just sit there, not only just to be still, but to like realize that here's God, creator of all the universe. You know, let's just go with that, and then to realize something about myself too. I'm also realizing that my mind is wandering, obviously, that I don't really want to be there, and I'm confused about why I am there. But once I quiet that, I might get to the point of like, it's uncomfortable because if that's God and I'm here, I'm a sinner. And so that's what I mean about sitting in the weeds. It's like just to accept that and to accept that him coming and him dying, him resurrecting is in pursuit of me. And that's because he loves me. And that is like, that's the truth. That's the heart and the core of Christianity. It's like God loves you so much that even while you're a sinner, to do that all for you. And if you just sit with that, that'll mess you up. Like really, really mess you up. Um, Not in like a cult like to any skeptics out there or anything like that, that you're brainwashing yourself, but you're you're sitting with the idea that a creator God came for you, even when he knows everything. He knows that you're unlovable, but he still loves you. And like those sorts of feelings, at least that's for me going to adoration. There may be things that are on my mind that I want to, like supplications or something I want to present and pray for a certain thing. There may be a live stream or two, a couple weeks back. It's interesting because a couple weeks back I went to adoration right before those debates I did. Well, weren't really debates, but I had those two atheists, the Godless Engineer and Deconstruction Zone, John and Justin, and they were brutal, man. It was like a lot of spiritual warfare. If you don't think spirit world is like real like that, do something like that and put yourself out there and just feel the oppression. I couldn't sleep for like a couple of days, and but I prepared for it by going to adoration, and sometimes I'll like go there and just offer something of like, here's a request, and but yeah, it's very different. People go for different reasons. I'm probably not even doing it right, to be honest with you. but yeah, it's just some interesting things to think about. But anyway, more generally speaking, excuse me. So you're at the point that you're really not sure if God exists, but you're going through these steps anyway. Are you like, surely you're hopeful, but do you feel bad about being hopeful? Like, what's your position on that? What's your perspective? Is it like, oh, this is like futility and I'm being ridiculous about this? Or like, do you think it's a reasonable hopefulness, or what do you think?
What do you mean, hopefulness? Hopefulness
That
for
you
like
hope
there
that
is
you
a
can
God?
believe that God exists. You hope that God exists.
Oh,
It's interesting because I do ask people this. I think it's a fair question to ask. It's like, if God exists, would you want it to be true that God exists? Would you want him to exist? I think you're on the right path there. So, like, it seems like you would want it to be true if God does exist. So are you hopeful that he does exist? Are you hopeful that you will believe that he exists and that he'll appear? Those sorts of thoughts. Are those what's like swirling around in your mind, or are other things swirling?
maybe I'm not so hopeful that God exists, because that whole idea of God existing or not existing to me is just I'm completely
Hmm.
have no clue about that. But I think I'm hopeful that I can believe and truly accept in my heart that God exists. That's what I'm hopeful for, because I think that the Catholic faith would be really good for me, and it'd be really good for a family that I hope to build at some point.
Yeah.
I see the virtues of that, and I think it's really really nice and really great to have. Um, so I guess maybe I can put aside the hope that God exists, or whatever, and the hope
Hmm.
that I can come to believe that God exists. That's the main focus for me.
Okay. Yeah. And so it's not that you are unconcerned about the metaphysics of the situation. It's just that, um, yeah. Because so let me put it this way. So I don't think this is what's happening with you, but sometimes when people say this, I don't concern about whether God exists. I'm only concerned about whether I can believe it. They seem to disregard, like they only see like the functional utility of belief, and they're like, I want that, but I don't care if God exists. I don't think that's what I'm hearing from you. But it's just that what is more concern for you now is that you were concerned that you would hope to believe it.
Yeah. For me, it's yes. It's not just that.
Okay.
I think it's good for me and whatever. I think it is a genuinely really nice thing to believe and to have,
Hmm.
and to go to mass and and all these things.
I don't think that's
That's
inappropriate
great.
either, because you know you know not only do philosophers, the scholastics, the classical philosophers, say that God is truth, God is good, but he's also beauty. And so, being drawn to beauty in these ways, not just the visual appearance of beauty and beautiful churches and faces and so on, and the nice monstrous they put the Eucharist in and all that, but the the beauty of having a family, raising a family, having the values that really make sense. I mean, I think C.S. Lewis put it like, uh, I don't. He says something like, it was an indirect proof of God. It's not that I believe that God exists because I see that he exists. It's just that by his light, like everything else makes sense. And so this would be the idea, like these things like are really beautiful in light of what God exists. He bestows his beauty on these things, and I'm drawn to those things. And man, just wait till what happens when you see like not just that the things are beautiful, but that God is beautiful. I'm still working on that. It's like, I mean, I think if God were to reveal his utter beauty to us, like we wouldn't be able to, as finite beings, wouldn't be able to withstand it, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. I think maybe the solution for me is just to go to mass more and continue attending it, because it's a
Yeah.
really nice thing to do. I mean, for me, the church that I go to is quite a while away. It's on the train, it's 20 minutes. On the bus, it's an hour.
Mm,
It's quite a while if I want to get there. But I think maybe that shows I do want to believe. I do want to come to faith. It is
yeah,
a really enjoyable thing. I like the community. I like the people. It
yeah,
was
yeah.
something interesting I have found is that the Catholic people in England are a lot nicer than the Protestant people, which is quite funny. I don't know why that is, but that's just something I've observed that they
Mm,
are really nice people. So yeah.
yeah. I guess it depends on where you are, but yeah. Um, there's obviously a really deep history between Catholics and Protestants in England. Uh, yeah. So I think that's fine. I think as far as motivation goes, you want it to be true. As far as like a council perspective here, just my 2 cents. You don't have to take it or whatever, but um, I think it's totally not inappropriate. I think it's completely appropriate and apt that you're pursuing these beautiful things, not just for the utility, but like you're pursuing them because they're beautiful and they can be explained best within the context of these Christian values, Catholic values, and so on that derive from God who is good. Um, and I wouldn't see some. I say this because some people might be like they might feel like that's a improper motivation. They're like, I'm just doing it for what I can get out of it. Man, God, He deals with people who are sinful and twisted and misguided, and and deals with weird motivations all the time. Like he's gonna work it out okay. Like if as long as you're going in that direction, doesn't matter how you get there. Honestly, I for the
Well,
most part.
I'm not saying that is I'm not saying that is my motivation. I'm not saying
Mm-hmm.
whether I'm
Of
hopeful or not
course,
that
yeah,
exists because I have absolutely no idea what my
right.
views or beliefs are on the actual existence of God. I don't know whether I'm hopeful for it. I don't know whether I believe it, anything like
Mm-hmm.
that. I actually don't know why I go to mass. Maybe there is something deep down that I maybe deep down I do believe in God and that's why I go to mass.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps that's the case. I don't know what my motivation is. I don't sort of have a conscious
Mm.
drawing to Catholicism because of those benefits. I think those just are benefits which are quite nice.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's not exactly that my motivations are pragmatic per
Of
se.
course, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You may not
yeah,
even know what your motivations are. That's totally fine, and
yeah,
it's good to
yeah,
self-reflect. But if you don't have
yeah.
to know them, also, I mean, like you may be aware of this, but or maybe not. But there have been, especially among young people, a real draw towards the Catholic Church, and specifically speaking, drawn to Christianity, generally speaking, but especially churches, not just Catholicism, but higher, um, what's called high liturgy, like the Orthodox Church, even Anglican. Um, I don't know if that's considered high liturgy to you, but it is to me. Growing up in like a
Not at all.
Congregationalist, yeah, yeah. So growing up in like a place where it's like very democratic, we just vote on whatever the pastor wants to do. Yeah, that's very high liturgy compared to that. But anyway, but yeah, it's a generational thing, and I'd also just something to flag. Not that this is a concern or if it's happening with you, but I tend to stay away from culture war stuff. And I know that many people probably are drawn for those reasons. They're like, oh, well, look what the culture is offering us in terms of like whatever made like the transing kids and surgery and stuff. It's like I don't want a part of that, and I realize that okay, the Catholic Church has an answer, or I really am drawn to whatever it is in there. And if they do it for like culture war stuff, I have some concerns about that. Just something to flag. Um, not that you're doing that, but anybody who's like moving towards that way, I'd just recommend like maybe check your motivations with that. And I have to think about that too. Like, I when I'm doing my work in teaching or on YouTube, I tend to stay away from the culture war stuff because that stuff's it's just gonna come and go. I just stick to perennial issues, the issues that really matter, like God's existence, moral relativism, that sort of thing. Because like culture war stuff, whatever, man, everybody has an opinion. So I don't know if you've heard that saying. I told this to my wife, and she had heard it for the first time just the other day for me. That opinions are like buttholes. Everyone has one, and they all stink.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like that with that
Um,
stuff. But anyway.
well, for me, just me personally, I don't really because I don't think I have any views on anything, which
Mm-hmm.
may be a bit of an extreme position, but I don't really have any views on abortion, for example, or
Mm-hmm.
transgenderism. So I wouldn't say I'm involved in the culture in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my own personal beliefs. Yeah, but I think that is an important thing.
Good,
So
yeah.
I got,
And
but
that may
as you said about, sorry, what were you saying?
derive from either one, just to flag this, being either uninformed because you just hadn't thought about it yet, or two, um, getting to the point sort of like a Socratic, uh, just like irony. Like I know that I don't know anything. I'm so informed that like I can't really hold a position on anything. So like two extremes there, but yeah. And I think it's a totally fine position to have. It's like I don't know what to think. Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's even them. So I used to be against abortion when I was in my Ben Shapiro phase when I was
Mm,
13 years old, and then I
yeah.
was fine with it from a utilitarian perspective. But now I genuinely just don't hold
Yeah.
any feeling for any view. I'm just indifferent. Deep down, I'm indifferent to it, I guess. But as you were saying about people coming to the Catholic Church younger, I think that's quite interesting. I think it is because you said it's high church. I think it is a return to traditionalism, to
Mm-hmm.
traditional culture, traditional behavior. Um, yeah, I don't know how much that is in America, but I think it's quite
Mm-hmm.
strong in the UK. People
Yeah.
people want culture, the traditional
Yeah.
culture, and all those things. Yeah,
Yeah. It's very strong. It seems an undercurrent though, and I'm not sure if it's really caught on yet, but you do see big movements of it. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
So all right. Well, we should probably wrap it up there.
yeah,
We've gone a little bit over, and I appreciate it, man. This has been so great, and I hope we can do it again. So,
yeah,
any
yeah.
last word you want to put in before we hop off here?
No, just a thank you to you because this has been
Oh,
a very
awesome.
nice conversation. I appreciate the help you've given me, which is really nice, and also thank you to Nathan as well for coming on.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely,
But yeah,
absolutely. All right. Well, good. I hope to see
thank
you
you.
next time. Then